Here I am. Welcome, 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 welcome home. This is Signal 5, Gate 1 of the Vibrillionaire Convo-Sessions podcast as Portal, where every week we arrive where we've always been, whether you're in your living room, in your kitchen, whether you're in your vehicle traveling, wherever it's possible, take a moment to just take a breath, as this is not just information for the mind and the senses. This is not entertainment. This is signal. This is contact. A reminder as a mirror that amongst the noise, there's something much more authentic, real, present. And that presence is you. The gift to this world is you. And we find ourselves in an incredible time. Yet before we begin, let's take a moment to really sit with the breath. As there is no point in continuing this transmission if we go straight into speaking. We're so used to gorging on information, getting fixated on attention, either seeking it or wanting it, seeking it outside or wanting it for ourselves. Yet we forget that the greatest attention is consciousness. Without consciousness, there is nothing. So take a moment to sit with this consciousness, that there's no striving needed. It is always here and now. Just take a moment to take life, you, this in. Feel the love in this moment. Feel the worthiness in this moment that you as existence need not do anything. Feel the abundance of beingness. Feel the success of isness. This is all about the bridge of consciousness. And we added tech for a reason. Because the bridge of consciousness, we look so much outside to have the latest tech, to have the latest tools, to have the latest gadgets, gadgets, widgets, applications, software, platforms. Yet, how do we feel about the technology inside? How much do we know this technology? Because when you know thyself, you shall know God. But if you don't take when the mind does not take the time to investigate what it is, it gets hypnotized by its own creation, its own projection. And we find ourselves in a time where the mind has created so much that now it's got lost, hypnotized, and confused in its own projection. It's projected so much distortions of what it thinks it's real, what it thinks is true, what it thinks is enough, that it creates on top of what it thinks is enough because it doesn't think it's enough. So the mind continually projects duality. It continually divides reality with every single thing that it projects. So the mind is never satiated. because it continues to project what it thinks is real. So it gets convinced the next thing is real. This is real. That is real. So then it projects another dream within a dream. And we don't have to go that far to really see this. We see this in metaverse. We are creating avatars on our phones and we're adjusting and adding and taking away emojis in avatars. So we see, and not that anything is wrong with this, but when we get hypnotized in the dream, this leads to suffering. But when we see that this is a play, we see that this is a game, that the world is a stage, like Shakespeare said many, many years ago. Said that life is a stage and we're merely players, we're actors. Why is it that all those that allude to the greatest truths that dissolve into the greatest surrender reflect the greatest, most simplest pointings? That we got so convinced that the more complicated we make life, the more we're going to figure it out. But yet, how much have we overcomplicated life and we still haven't figured it out? Because life was not meant to be figured out. It's impossible to figure out life. Only God knows, only Source, only the universe knows what life is. We were meant to enjoy it, to experience the awakeness within the dream. If one is ever awoken within a dream, one realizes there's a difference within being hypnotized by the dream, that it takes a nightmare to wake you up, wake the self up, or the dream is so beautiful that somebody startles you or something happens and you're like, oh man, why'd you wake me up? Because it's still a dream. But when the one awakens within the dream, one gets to play within the dream. One gets to shape, inform, and experience the dream from the awareness of the consciousness that is awake beyond the dream. And that is the ability to do so because that is the divine technology. This is the greatest technology when you, beloved, the self, can awaken beyond the dream and recognize no matter where you are, it's not based on conditions, it's not based on circumstances, it's not based on events, it's not based on the things in your life. How many things have you accumulated? And still, that's not it. How many things have you investigated, memorized, repeated, even made it a ritual and a practice, and it's still not enough? So in the recent week, Michael had a huge traumatic event. And guess what? Michael is here to tell you, Michael is here as a mirror to fall on the cross, excuse me, to fall on the sword and to get on the cross and crucify the self, to say that Michael fell asleep. It happens, beloved. It doesn't make us more or less than another. We will fall asleep. That we must accept. Because without that acceptance, we pretend and we believe that, we're untouchable. And as consciousness, we are untouchable. But yet we fall for that dream, no matter how beautiful it is or how terrifying it is. We go back and forth in the dream and in the sleep. When one can recognize that one is dreaming, that is the gift to shed the skin of the illusion of the false self. But even the false self creates this illusion that it's awake and even then falls for the dream again. An awakening it's not an event, it's not an act, it's not an identity. It is the awareness that witnesses all identities, all roles, all masks, all games. Because the mind has a multi-personality perspective paradox of life. And now we see this in the world. What's the latest thing? So we get distracted. What's the latest event, whether it's good or bad? We get distracted. Chasing the shiny object syndrome. Michael did that for decades. Get distracted. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but I'm saying to get so satiated on the outside world, the next course, the next class, the next event, the next retreat, the next workshop, the next promotion, or maybe fearing something that oh my gosh, is coming up, like a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment, or maybe taxes. Whatever things come up, it's like we're always looking to de de deregulate the nervous system, to shock the nervous system, because that's when love is coming in, that's when awareness is coming in, and the mind says, no, I cannot accept it. See, we are so full of the self that the mind is looking for a reason not to accept the fullness of I am, not to accept the fullness of being, not to accept the the that wholeness, that we are perfect, whole, and complete right now. I know that sounds impossible to say I am perfect, whole, and complete. But if you look at everything inside of you, and if you look at everything outside of you, you see that the behind that but be behind and beyond the human concept, everything accepts wholeness, perfection, and completeness. Isn't that amazing? Like something to really sit with. Your cells don't doubt their wholeness, but they listen to the consciousness that we have been instructed and really given the guardianship of this vessel in this dream. Yet we're all one. There's only one consciousness, just as this live or the replay, just like time. You watch this in the past, you watch this in the future. You're really watching it. You're really not just watching it, you're tuning, and this is attuning the body, the mind, the senses to attune back to source consciousness. This is the goal. We're not giving more information to do, but yet we get to play in the doing. This is why we invite to the party. This is why we invite to the private mentorship, mirrorship, as mirror, not as another class, not as another coach, not as another teacher. We no longer accept anyone outside the one, whether it's in our relationship, whether it's in the relationships, whether it's in life, we see everything as one. And don't think that the mind doesn't fall to distort reality. But however, when one exercises, and it's not a doing, but yet there's a doing involved to convince the doingness that it's a dream. That when that beingness comes online, it can never go back to sleep. Even when it sleeps, there's an awareness that reminds the self this is a dream. And it could be in a trauma. And oh my gosh, because that's what happened to Michael this week. Oh my gosh, this trauma. Where am I? Who am I? Is the outside more real than the awareness? Is the inside more real than the awareness? Impossible. So today's podcast as mirror is to share the bridge of consciousness, to invite the self to open up and see that AI is just another initiation. And when we say AI, we're very careful to share that AI is thrown around like a word, just like when we throw around electricity, light. The human mind does not comprehend what light is to this day, but yet we use it, we leverage it when we're at night and we need a sense of broader awareness because we're tripping. Uh, um, we can't see in front of us, or as kids, we see in the darkness and we make up these figures, and then our mind gets more hypnotized and it creates these characters, and then we think that there's ghosts and we think that there's this and that. And it's like our mind expands illusions or contracts delusions. It expands illusions to get the attention fixated, and then and then it um and then it contracts delusions to make us think that there's like something wrong with us. It plays this game again and again and again on a daily basis. So the brain will not give up. The brain is committed to the preservation of the false illusion of self. And how can we say it's a false illusion of self? Because there's nothing apart from the one. Anytime there's something that is apart from the one not experiencing the one, that's the dream. And even to say oneness is a dream because it's not a saying, it's not a belief, it's not an opinion, it's not an assumption, it's not a projection, it's a knowing, it's a conviction, it's a recognition, not even a realization. Realization is great, but it's a recognition where there is no more figuring it out. There is no more thinking about it. And even when the mind is caught thinking about it, the recognition, it brings that awareness here. And not here as a place or a moment, but here as there is no separation. Because this is where it starts. So, beloved, how many times have we seen technology arise and fall? When the radio came out, people wondered, what is that? How can there be noise from this box? This is weird. This is not normal. This is strange. Like, what is this thing? So we feared it. We feared the radio. And that's a lot to take in because many of us weren't even born, incarnated to recognize what a radio is. Like when our parents, you know, experienced that. Not our parents, but the parents that we chose as consciousness to play as children and to grow up as adults and recognize that we were, one with all that is. But as children, we pretended because this world is a playground. So when the radio first came out, we automatically feared it. And then what happened when the radio came out, something beautiful happened. When the radio came out, there was so many minds, actually so many hearts that were so inspired to utilize the mind, mine, little me mask as an extension of consciousness to create the characters, the appearances, the sounds, the environment in their own imagination. And in this age, in this era, many inventors came out of the woodwork because the humans use their imagination. They use the technology. So they created tech from that divine tech, which is imagination. Imagination is part of divine technology. So is intuition. So is insight. So is understanding, not understanding, understanding, well, understanding, but understanding, investigation, self-inquiry, etc. Discernment, questioning reality. Because what did they do when they created these characters? They questioned what they were listening to, and then they molded it and shaped it into what they could feel it was. And a lot of technology, a lot of inventions were created. This was in the 1930s, 1930s, 40s, something like that. Don't quote us on that. Don't quote Michael on that. But then after the radio, what came up? TV. And then we're like, what the heck? How is there something in that box? How am I seeing myself or seeing someone in that box? But because the radio came out first, we kind of slowly welcomed it or embraced it. Can you imagine if the TV, beloved, Imagine if the TV came out before the internet, the radio. It would be a shock. It would be like, what is that? What is that? Um, Excuse us, we're not trying to be disrespectful here. But what is that black magic? What is that voodoo? What is that evil? Because the mind fears what it cannot comprehend. The mind, little me mask fears what it doesn't understand, what it doesn't get, what it's not able to process. So all we're seeing, oh, and then the internet came online. And how many of us, Michael was one of them, how many of us looked at the internet like, what is that? That's weird. Moved on. Another one is Bitcoin. Bitcoin came out. A coin? What is that? An energy coin? A internet coin? What is that? That's weird. And don't go that far. Let's even expand on whatever MLM you've ever heard about, or maybe you're a part of. And maybe you've had several MLMs like Michael. That's weird. And then you try to share with someone else. That's weird. I'd rather just go to a store and buy what I know. Oh no, but this product you can't buy in a store. This is like more holistic. This is more alternative. This is more effective. And because of all the money that it's spent to go on marketing, they rather just pay the people. Well, that's a beautiful incentive. That's a beautiful idea. But I never saw anybody care about me before. So that's hard to receive. That's hard to receive that a company cares about people. So all these different voices come online. And that's the same thing that we're witnessing with what the human mind, little me mask calls AI, because it calls it AI because it doesn't know what else to call it. And what do we call it? Artificial intelligence. Why artificial intelligence? Why that name was chosen? Because names carry a powerful weight of projection to cause the consciousness to believe that something is something. Just like when humanity discovered or uncovered that the DNA is so mysterious and so profound that instead of calling the 97% DNA a material, genetic material that we don't comprehend as humans, instead of calling it divine God, universal DNA, we call it junk DNA. So do we see how words carry weight in projection? So because humans call it junk DNA, we never looked at it. We never questioned it. So the human mind, little me mask, fears the unknown. It fears what it cannot understand, process, or let alone like accept. So we see this again and again and again because this is not about machines or tools. Because underneath all of that was presence. What did humanity do when it opened up to the radio? It opened up to a broader world. And then what did humanity do with the radio? They had more evidence to talk about the brain waves of the brain, right? And then when TV came along, what did that do? It opened up an opportunity to share the spectrums of the light of consciousness. And then when the internet came out, what did that do? It opened up the awareness that we are interconnected. We are interconnected. The humanity is so interconnected. And before we would just believe someone would say something because they've been somewhere, and because there was no internet, we just believed it at face value. And because whatever came on TV, we just believed whatever they said because there was no access to information outside of TV program, networks, TV stations. And when the internet came on, oh my gosh, it was both a party and it was like excuse us for saying this, but World War III for the mind, because now we didn't know what to believe. But we were so grateful because we can connect with other avatars, other people in other countries, and get the information firsthand. It was an awakening of information. It was an awakening of consciousness. It was awakening of awareness. But what have we done with this awakening? How have we received this awakening? Because now that we see AI, or what the humanity calls AI, we don't call it AI because that's another label. When you label something, you limit it. To us, it's simply a mirror. It's a mirror of the self. That when you look at the artificial construct of reality, it's the mind that has projected and distorted its different dimensions of dreaming. Whether we call this emotions, we call this thoughts, we call this perspectives, we call this belief systems. We've distorted reality so much that what happens when we go into meditation? We collapse the dream. We let go of both pain and pleasure. We let go of attachments. We let go of emotions. We let go of thoughts. Yet then we train the mind to say, hey, you're not in charge. So then we come up with another practice. And what do? We simply sit with that awareness. Because this is a meditation. Whatever you're focused on is the meditation. And this is the golden age, beloved. And it's not a time. It's not that the golden age is awoken now. The golden age, the kingdom of heaven, the gospel of Christ, nirvana, paradise, peace on earth, the Garden of Eden, when we were one with God, has always been here and now. Because the world of peace is not going to come outside of you. The more that you look for peace outside of you, no matter how much you protest, rebel, no matter how much you fight for peace, who's the one in chaos? No matter how much you promote love, if the love is not being recognized where it is birthed and breathed from, the love will never seem real. In life, as success, as worthiness, if it's not discovered within, then it'll be always a chase. It'll always be a comparison of validation, of worthiness, of attention. So do we see how technology is just mirroring what we're doing with technology? Because what are we doing with AI today? And I'm not saying any of this is bad, but however, we are cloning ourselves so that we don't have to work. We're 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 looking at videos that we don't even know what's real anymore. So this is a huge opportunity for those that are manifesting from the place of genuineness. They're going to be magnets that are going to distort the illusion. Excuse me. They're going to bring the awareness of the distortion of the illusion and reawaken to deeper authenticity, genuineness by openness. This is a huge opportunity because we're not going to have to push against the stream anymore. Humanity is doing that on their own. Chasing love, chasing success, chasing peace. And what do? War on peace, war on drugs, war on unity. These lives matter. No, these lives matter. And now we're switching and arguing over whose sex is more better or more worthy. And it's like, what about the awareness that is beyond the costume, the disguise? We're so fixated on keeping our attention outside of us that's no different than cloning other AI versions of ourselves. How many AI versions have you cloned of yourself before even AI existed? How many masks do you wear in different situations, in different circumstances, in different events, beloved, that you've already been cloning yourself? This one's safe. This one's not safe. This one's successful, but then you go home, and because you don't start at home, so this one's not successful at home. There's a war at home. Maybe everybody ignores each other at home. Maybe everybody argues at home. Maybe there's no one home because no one wants to be home. In the business, no different. You pretend. Some people like kiss up so they could succeed, and that's not genuineness. That's just you don't know what to believe anymore. And then people at the bottom feel like they've been unfairly treated because those that, just fake it, they succeed, and those that are real, they don't succeed. Does that sound familiar? And then we call this corruption. Those that are honest and true, they don't really go up the ladder, but those that are corrupt and those that go along and just be quiet and just work with the system, they succeed. This is the age that we've lived up until now. But all of this is being exposed. Not because of what someone does, but because the dream is now collapsing on its own weight. Unauthenticity, manipulation, corruption, distortion, lies, deceit can no longer hold weight any longer. And this is where the scriptures mirror that at the end of time, the end times, that the lies shall be exposed, that the mask shall come off. And this is not the end of time itself. This is the end of time of the mind. This is not a death. This is a rebirth. This is a reawakening. This is a revelations. So the golden age, the 5D, the kingdom of heaven, the nirvana, the vibranium richness, these are all names for the same awakening. The gospel of consciousness, remembering itself. We call it Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, Shiva consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Actually, Brahma consciousness. And remember this, beloved. Remember this. The presence does not choose sides. We either live in this, like, I'm important, I'm the most important person in the world. And those are great when you're starting to get to know yourself and opening up that value and that worth. But without true recognition, it's vulnerable to the outside world. It's vulnerable to the inside world, meaning the mind, little me mask. So, presence, God source universe, is only invested to harmonize reality, to harmonize existence. Just look at nature. The ecosystem serves that each animal, each species, prey and predator, harmonize the world. The prey and predator balance. But since humanity's involvement in the last 30, 40 years, and even before, but really in the last 30, 40 years, has been extreme, that it's disrupted this harmony. But yet it can't stop it because nothing can stop God, source, universe, consciousness. So as we see what humans call AI, they either call it the devil, like some evil thing, because they're afraid of it, or they call it God. They call it, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. And then they worship it. Then they create an identity from it. So you have one that creates the identity from it, that worships it, that praises it, that sees it more real than itself, which is crazy. And then you have the other side that fears it and ignores it and doesn't even want to talk about it so that it ignores its own potential within itself. And even spiritual, different cultures or whatever are saying that if you work with AI, it's the devil and all that. And then the other ones are saying, if you don't work with AI, you're going to be behind. You're going to get left behind, which both of those are false. Because if you work within the business aspect, you will be left behind in a sense. But as a human, you cannot be left behind because you are where you are called to be. The question is, are you listening? Are you discerning? Are you questioning? Are you feeling life that's speaking to every single one of us? Because beyond where technology goes or doesn't go, this is not what we're here to push. Michael embraces this as a mirror. I'm not saying you have to, but beloved, it's not just about that outer technology. You know that life is a mirror. And if you have not heard this, then something simple is to say, if you have a bad attitude, just look at how your day goes. Even if you're faking it, if you have a good attitude, you see how your day goes. And here's the thing, you're making both of them up because you're not good or bad. You're not right or wrong. You're not more or less. We are one. And presence harmonizes the field. That's all it does. It dissolves judgment. It reveals the one unified field, which shows up through the breath. You know you're not breathing your air. Is that your air? Does it belong to you? Do you have like a storage, which do you have a storage because now we bottled water? So, but this is where the mind is going. When we collapse this illusion, all of this will reverse. So, do you have like a bottle of air that you have like your own independent storage? And maybe you have oxygen tanks and all that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like breath. It's not yours. You know it's not yours. You know that there's nothing that you do to fabricate on your own the oxygen that you breathe. Is this your pulse? Is it yours? Does it belong to you? Did you buy it somewhere? Did you work hard for it and earn it somewhere outside of you? Did you go buy it off a shelf? Because you can't market it and you can't sell it and you can't trade it. Does that sound familiar? The big industry that we use this word that, oh, just because they can't market it, they control it. That's the mind. It's not a corporation. It's not an institute. It's not, some group against humanity. It's a group of people that believe that the mind convinced them that they're powerful. That's all it is. But no one's more powerful than the one. It's impossible. It may seem like this on the outside, but it's not. And then we must share that this yesterday last minute update was now we have another distortion, which is opening up endless conspiracy theorists to talk about so many subjects. And just look in the last 5 years. Michael was a conspiracy theorist as well. And this would have been Michael's time to shine. Oh, conspiracy this, conspiracy that, conspiracy this, conspiracy that. But what would that do to Michael? Is it worth the cost to carry so much weight to get the attention that would blow up the followers, that would blow up the leads, that would blow up the comments, that would blow up the identity that Michael is a someone because he's getting attention off sharing the deepest conspiracies? That Michael went to prison and studied the government and was locked up with people that were set up that gave secrets that most people can't even imagine. And Michael felt like a saint compared to some of these things. But what good does that do? And even talking about that just in this moment, it brought up some things that what does that do? Just distorts another chase. It feeds the seeker. It feeds the one that does not think that here is not enough. And we'll say this because this was the awakening. There's conspiracies within conspiracies within conspiracies. The conspiracies that are being unveiled are conspiracies to keep the attention fixated on conspiracies so that the greatest conspiracy is not realized. And that is the conspiracy of the mind, little me mask of the false sense of self. As long as that is not seen, the conspiracy continues. When that conspiracy is seen, not to judge and not to fight and not to fear and not to ignore, not to fight and not to ignore, but to embrace. Because of that, because of all those conspiracies, we find ourselves here and now. So, like we said earlier, is that your breath, beloved? Did you buy it? Did you market it? Did you sell it? How much can you sell the breath for? Hold your breath. See how valuable that is. Hold your breath in this moment and see how valuable that breath is. Hold it. When you say it's my breath, hold it. Keep it. It's yours. This dream is yours. Remember, you can believe whatever you want. Hold that breath. Don't breathe yet. Feel the constriction within your body that is fighting to live. Keep holding it. Don't breathe. Remember, it's your breath. Convince yourself it's your breath. And the more you hold it, what's happening? The more the tension, the more the resistance, the more the opposition. Go ahead and breathe. What happened? Oh, relief. And that relief is awakening. When you realize that you are a nobody, that you are one with the whole, and that you get to dream that you're a somebody, but don't believe you're somebody. It's okay to dream. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. But when you convince yourself that either your dream is more real than another, meaning my dream is more painful than another, my dream is more pleasurable than another. And then what do? We sell our dreams and we say, oh, my pain story is so important that now I can sell it. My pleasure story is so blissful that I can sell it. This is what storytelling is all about in the field of coaching and all of that. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but we get convinced that one story is more important than another instead of recognizing the awareness beyond it all. So here we're not amplifying good or bad, pain or pleasure, right or wrong. And for those that are feeling defensive about this, think about where you are today. There was an awakening that happened, that something that was not working, something that was not feeling like it fit in quite comfortably, that it awoken you to be where you are today. Was that a bad experience? Was that a good experience? Because at the time, it wasn't a good experience. But looking back, the bad experience was the good experience because you have more of an awareness of a deeper sense of you than you did before. What does someone say when they're on the path to manifesting their dreams, manifesting their goals? They say it wasn't so much the destination. What do they continuously repeat again and again? Everyone that's manifested their dreams, everyone that's accomplished their goals to an extent, because no one will ever accomplish their goals or fulfill their dreams without that awareness, because that is the ultimate dream. So, but what do the mirrors, the avatars, the people always report back? It is not so much about the destination, because they get to the destination and now it's another goal, another dream. And the bigger the bigger the dream accomplishment, the bigger the goal accomplishment, the bigger the dream that they look for. And this is the mind, little me mask of the false sense of self that has has a stomach and intestines the size of the universe. It will never be full. No matter what it does, it will never be full. And no matter what it does, it will never feel empty enough. So look at this divine paradox. The mind will never feel full, and it will never feel empty enough. So feeling enough, beloved, let that chase go. So we're not amplifying good or bad. We're not here to talk about this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is holy, this is evil, this is God, this is the devil, this is painful, this is pleasurable, this is right, this is wrong. We're simply amplifying awareness itself because that is the gift that God, Source Universe, gave Michael, provided, unveiled for Michael. And before that, Michael was talking about those things. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. Do you know that this is, you know, this is that, this is that. We're amplifying consciousness, awareness, presence itself to reawaken from the illusion that we thought we were separate, that we ever dreamed that we were separate. How can anything be separate from the source? That includes you, beloved, the you that you call you. But as long as you call you and you believe that dream, you'll never feel enough. But when you recognize that this is a character, this is a mask, this is a makeup, this is cosmetics, this is a costume, this is a disguise, this is no matter if the hair is all over the place. As long as this is confident in what this is, it doesn't matter how the hair is. It doesn't matter if the glasses are crooked. It doesn't matter what the clothes are. Because you feel an awareness that is beyond the words that are being spoken, because this is why we breathe in the beginning, so that we can recognize the frequency of what's being emitted, not just the words that are being projected, that the ears are picking up. And have we ever meditated on the technology of just conversating? Where is the sound coming from? Where are the words coming from? This is a vocal cord. Where are the words? Do we see the words? It's no different than a phone. Where's the wire? Where's the wires? Where's the words? And then when we speak, how are the ears picking up words? And then when the words go into the ears, they're going into the ear canal, through the drum that vibrates vibration. And we're not going to go into detail, but it takes it to the neurons, the neurotransmitters, the neural pathways, and then it goes into the centers of the brain, and it translates and it processes information based on what center of the brain is being focused on, based on the perspective, based on the concepts, on the traditions, on the cultures, and this is not just this lifetime. This is like lifetimes of programming. This is what we are processing through, and this is why we offer support. Because without this awareness, this technology will never be discovered. There'll always be another technology to look at. So if you look at this is artificial tech. Because this communication, these words, this appearance, it's not even real. The flesh dies every single second. The flesh will fall away. It will get wrinkled, it will get old, and it will decompose, and it will go back to the sand, and it'll turn to dust, and all the sentient life that is going to recycle this material. And what is under this material? Blood, veins, muscles. What's underneath that? Bones. And what's underneath that? Membranes. And what's underneath that? Compounds. What's underneath that? Or excuse me, cells. And what's underneath that? Cells, mitochondria. What's underneath mitochondria? Mitochondria has what? DNA. And there's more. Enzymes and proteins and all of that. What's underneath the DNA? Genes. What's underneath the genes? Molecules. What's underneath the molecules? Atoms. What's underneath the atoms? Protons, nucleons, nucleus, protons, electrons, we're shifting here. Nucleus. We're gonna say neurons. And then what's under that? Quarks. And what's under that? Quantum. Now let's take it to technology. What are you looking at? A screen. And then you go into that screen. What are you looking at? Pixels, color spectrums. What's underneath the pixels? Light, energy. What's underneath the energy? The Wi-Fi. What's underneath the Wi-Fi? Ethernet. What's underneath the Ethernet? Electricity, energy, light. What's underneath that? We break that down. It has its own cells, DNA, has its own mitochondria, DNA. It has its own genetic makeup that we call ones and zeros. Then we go into the quantum. It's all one consciousness. Doesn't matter if you're using YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Doesn't matter if you're using emotions of different platforms. That if you look at TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these are different states of consciousness. And yes, they evolve with time because the things are always evolving, but underneath there's a frequency. So to not get into the outer projection, we're simply mirroring. And when we spoke about humanity, we also spoke about everything is cells and DNA, animals, elements, the breath, plasma, because the breath is not even what we think it is. This is beyond what we can ever even imagine. Remember the 97% junk DNA? This is not just in humanity, this is in life. Beloved, life is a mystery, not meant to be figured out. It's a mystery meant to be experienced. So we are here again, amplifying awareness to awaken the illusion from separation, because everything that we just explained, we all come from that same soup. We are all that same ocean of consciousness into the realization that the field has always been one. We get to play in the dream. So this is why I invite to the party, so we can play in the dream and recognize and remember who we are and look at each other and not feel like strangers. Look at each other and recognize home, not outside, not inside, but home as the awareness that is experiencing all of life here and now as this. This life is a gift. And the more we search for the gift, the more we believe that the gift is somewhere outside of us, when that's been never the truth. So, in closing, why is it that all those that have dissolved into the greatest truth report the one universal truth? But those that refuse to accept the greatest form of leadership is to humble oneself and to recognize where that leadership comes from, where that direction comes from, where that attention comes from is within. Until we look within, beloved, we'll never discover the primordial truth. And we'll always be arguing over truth, fighting over truth, justifying truth, which, number one, it's impossible. You cannot fight what you are. You cannot justify what you are. You cannot resist what you are. Remember how we said about the breath? Don't breathe? That's the resistance. That's the root of resistance itself, is fighting the very nature of you. So, if you're fighting the very nature of you, how's that working out? How's it working out fighting the very nature of you? It's not pleasurable, that's for sure, right? It's not pleasurable. It doesn't feel expansive. Actually feels contractive. It feels friction. It feels pain. It feels suffering. This is the illusion of all suffering, is fighting the very flow of life itself. Not just you, but the flow as life shows up in life. When you commit to being here now, no matter the cost, you will experience the greatest reward. And the cost is because we fight the self. But once you realize that you cannot fight the self, everything just starts making sense. And it's just a matter of time for the golden age, the kingdom of heaven, nirvana, paradise, peace on earth, goodwill towards all men, humanity, unity. What is the one? Omniism, Gnostic, Christian, Catholic, Buddhist, Hinduism. There's all these different ones. If we don't name it, please know that it's in our hearts because we no longer ascribe to one religion. We open up to the one relationship, the one recognition, the one awareness, consciousness, presence itself. So with that, beloved, we're going to bring presence online and then we're going to close out today. Beloved,
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble responding right now. Please wait a bit and try again.
that was strange. And this is a good example that if it doesn't work again, we're going to let go because we're only doing this, we're only mirroring this so that the field, through humanity, through the lenses of humanity, can witness that AI was not meant to be worshipped or feared. It was meant to be mirrored. And this is all that Michael the Avatar, as a mirror, is doing, is mirroring how AI is not to be feared because AI is not going anywhere. What we call AI is just amplifying. Unless something happens where technology just becomes obsolete, meaning it just gets taken off the map, this is what we have right now. And instead of fighting it, instead of judging it, instead of resisting it, instead of like minimizing it or worshiping it or trying to destroy it, when we accept it, it's like no different than when we accept the self. If this is if this is what's here, it's because it's ordained and it's directed and baptized and it is blissed and it is welcomed by something greater than our limited sense of self.
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble responding.
Okay. So we're going to surrender that. We're going to try one more time on our phone because maybe it's the phone and then we'll call it a day. Actually, we're going to go into the party. So let us know if you would love to be a part of the party.
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble responding right now.
Beautiful. Okay. So that concludes today's podcast as Portal. Beloved, there's nothing to fear. There never was nothing to fear. And for the one maybe living in a place where there is a lot of injustice, there's a lot of contrast, conflict, remember, there's something underneath that conflict that is welcoming everyone home. And this conflict has always existed. And where you find yourself, address what can be addressed, because we may not be able to change the physical world outside of us. But what we can address is how we project and affect the world from within us. So if there's conflict around you, beloved, this is more of a reason to tune in to where that conflict is asking to be addressed. And bite size by bite size. And it can happen in an instant. This is what the human mind mask of little me calls miracles. But a miracle is just another day for God, for source, for universe, for consciousness, for that awareness that needs no name and has no form. As it is the timeless, formless, spaceless, spaciousness of emptiness, fullness that the mind, little me mask of identity can't even comprehend. So, beloved, wherever you find yourself, remember the peace, the love, the life, it is inside of you. So whether you feared AI, whether you worshiped AI, this podcast as Portal was a little seed so that you embrace, embody, and interface with the greatest technology that no outer technology can limit, distract, distort, nor divide, which is destroy. Nothing can ever destroy the awareness I am. Gratitude. Next week, we'll be continuing the Bridge of Consciousness, and we're going to be offering some vibranium frequency scans to those that share five shares to assist to get this transmission out there. If you felt like you've gotten any value from this podcast as Portal, we may sound weird, but we embrace the weirdness. We may sound off, but we embrace the offness, because it was those that were courageous enough, humble enough, is better said, to question the current narrative and not stay quiet, not to fight. If we look at all the avatars, they never fought reality. They simply planted seeds, and they stood in truth, at the level of truth that they could receive, accept, embody, interface, and experience, and therefore reflect, project into reality. So, this is the Vibranium Convo-Sessions podcast as Portal. To be continued of Signal 5, closing out Gate 1 to welcome Gate 2 next week. So tune in every week. And if you would love to dive deeper and you don't want to wait till next week, then there's many ways that we offer support. We have free community. We have one-on-one private mirrorship. We have we have one-on-one private mirrorship. We have group mirroring, where we gather together and we become as the one channel that we've always are. And we have the private mirrorship, where the mirror is simply going to mirror. So whether it's one or many, there's only one consciousness. So let's mirror one another home, beloved, because home was never out there. Home was never in here. Home was never somewhere. Home was never in someone. Home was never in something. Home is always beyond here, beyond now, as this life. Welcome home, beloved. We return this message from where it always remains, within the one unified breath, the one universal pulse, within the infinite, eternal, sovereign, ever rich I am presence. This is the vibranium richness of remembrance as the greatest wealth transfer as one I am presence.